Jack the Ripper's identity finally revealed? But before we get into that, make sure to like and subscribe for more content. Jack the Ripper is one of the most famous serial killers. Between August and November of 1888, Jack the Ripper murdered about a dozen people, but it was only confirmed that he killed 5 people. Those people were Annie Chapman, Catherine Eddowes, Mary Jane Kelly, Mary Ann Nichols, and Elizabeth Stride. It's said that all of Jack the Ripper's victims were prostitutes. Many of them he found on the streets. Though the only verifiable prostitute was Kelly, the others were suspected to be soliciting, and not all the time, just during times of poverty. There's an old notion to think that Jack the Ripper was only a murderer of prostitutes, but sources say that's just a case of misogynism, which was very high in the 1800s, of course. In each murder, every victim's throat was cut and was usually mutilated. Jack the Ripper was never caught, but now, has he really been found? At one of the crime scenes of the murders, a shawl was left behind. Police never found out who it belonged to, but now that changed. A historian by the name of Russell Edwards used DNA to match the real identity of the killer. It turned out to be a 100% DNA match, and it was shown to belong to Aaron Kosminski, a 23-year-old and one of the suspects at the time. The shawl was found at the murder scene of Catherine Eddowes. It was tested by using DNA from Kosminski's oldest brother's great-great-granddaughter. Kosminski was actually a Polish immigrant who was a barber in Whitechapel, England. Coincidentally, after Jack the Ripper's last murder, Aaron Kosminski was sent to a mental hospital a couple of months later, where he was diagnosed with schizophrenia. The shawl not only contained DNA from Kosminski, but it also contained DNA from Eddowes, one of the victims. I don't know, that seems pretty convincing to me. You have one of the suspects who has their DNA on one of the items that were found on the scene of one of the victims. That seems pretty damning. And according to this historian, that's what he thinks. He 100% believes that Aaron Kosminski is the Jack the Ripper. But is he right? Well, does this officially solve the case of Jack the Ripper? Not really. A forensic DNA expert said that the type of testing used to test the DNA was mitochondrial, which isn't as accurate as nuclear DNA. Also, the DNA degrades over the years, so it's not as accurate to identify somebody individually. Especially since there's a bunch of other people who probably touched the shawl within the 137 years. You also can't really tell when the DNA was put on the shawl. This is why many experts are denying the claim that this is definitive evidence of it being Aaron Kosminski. In fact, one of the authors of one of the Jack the Ripper books does not believe it's Aaron Kosminski either. They believe it was a painter named Walter Sickert, who was one of the suspects and who is believed to have written the messages to the police saying that he is Jack the Ripper, come find me, etc., etc. They say that they know for sure that Walter wrote those violent letters to the police. Others are also saying that the shawl probably didn't even belong to Eddowes. In the original police report for Eddowes, there was no mention of a shawl, and in the sketches, it doesn't show a shawl. And okay, if there was a shawl at the scene and it did have their DNA on it, it also has others' DNAs on it. The DNA that was tested cannot be relied on, and it can't pinpoint an exact time for when the DNA got on there. So, what do you think? Do you think the case is solved? Do you think it's accurate? Let me know down below. I feel like it's just more evidence, but we can't really place it on one person yet still. There's also evidence pointing to other suspects too that people believe are actually the Jack the Ripper. And then there's also people who thinks it's all the suspects and they're just part of one big ring. But that's a whole other video. Comment what you think down below. Later.